Joining us now to make sense of the races down the ballot is Mark Pischea, a GOP strategist and the former deputy director of the National Republican Congressional Committee. So, Mark, when we look at what happened on Tuesday night, I know there are still results that are coming in. We don't exactly know where the Republican majority will stand, if it'll even exist at all. But from what we're seeing so far on Tuesday night, what's your reaction?
It's historic, but not in a way I think that the left saw it being historic. The blue wave didn't happen. And beyond that, Republicans have made gains despite, the face of all that money and celebrity star power coming out of California and New York. Rural America had a different agenda. And when I was at the congressional committee back in 1992, we actually picked up 10 seats in Congress that year while George Bush was losing the White House. It was the first and only time in history a party in power lost the White House while picking up seats in Congress. This could be a similar year to that, with if the presidential numbers are going the way they look right now, but we're still picking up 5 seats in the U.S. House and I believe holding on to Senate majority.
Yeah, and it looks like that Senate majority is going to be held on to, because I know that some people were waiting on perhaps what we'll see in the special election in Georgia. Maybe that'll give us a more clear picture. But John James is competitive right now in Michigan. To be completely honest, I wasn't expecting Susan Collins to perform as well as she did in Maine. I mean, I was watching the media outlets over the past couple of weeks, and they were telling me that she was almost a shoo-in to be replaced by Sarah Gideon. And I don't know, when you look down these races, all of them, I mean, we could start with Mitch McConnell winning by 12 or something like that, in a race that MSNBC has been telling me for the past couple of months is going to be close. Why were they able to overcome these, not only polling numbers, but also the fundraising numbers as well?
Well, I think it had a lot to do with the mood of the nation, and in a lot of ways, two nations. You saw that there was a vibrant, overwhelming debate for president, over the last 12 months, 48 months for that matter. But I think what happened was there were a lot of independents, and we'll see more when we see exit polling and other types of analysis. But I think what really happened is you had independents voting for Biden, but then voting Republican down the ticket because they're uncomfortable with the notion of a clean sweep in Washington and giving the left and AOC and those types of folks access to the kind of power that really frightens folks in rural America.
And to some degree, that is what we saw during the 2018 midterms, right? I mean, essentially, there were a lot of people who looked at the fact that Republicans had the White House, they had the Senate as well, and we did see a lot of them come out and say, you know what, maybe it is good to have a Democrat in the House, a check and balance, if you will. But what I was looking at yesterday, too, and it seems like this may have been a catalyst for some of these Senate races, as well as some of the House races that you said we might be chipping into as well when it comes to the Democratic majority, is a lot of suburban women actually were coming back to the Republican side in some of these races, too. And they were a catalyst for Democrats taking back the House in 2018. Do you see them as kind of being the more independent, maybe swing voters that'll start dictating these elections more so?
Absolutely, they're a force to reckon with, and I think young voters, I would put them in a similar category, or not, although not geographically suburban, by definition. I think what we saw was that, and we saw this in a lot of focus groups, right, where suburban women liked what Trump had to say, just don't like the way he says it. And so you take personality out of the equation, and the presidential election, to a large degree, was a personality election. Down ballot, these are more policy issue based elections, and focusing on local issues that matter to voters most, and departing from the president where necessary, but staying in line where strategically relevant. Was a smart strategy for local legislative candidates. And, we also are seeing a pickup in legislative chambers across the country, which no one saw coming. Absolutely no one saw coming.
Right. And, at the beginning of this interview, you brought up the idea that there is a possibility right now that President Trump will be voted out of office. And then what that situation would leave us with is a Joe Biden in the White House, a Republican-controlled upper chamber, and a Democrat-controlled lower chamber. What does that look like? Is it just deadlock and stalemate for the next 4 years?
I don't think so. What I think it means is there are a lot of issues, including issues that I'm care deeply about, like clean energy and our nation's transition um, from fossil fuel to clean, is an issue that we haven't engaged in as conservatives because of the president's position and on energy. But I think you take that away, and senators are free to act on their own volition rather than falling in line with the White House. That there's an opening for conservatives to engage on issues like that, and not in a rhino way where you're compromising principles, but rather approaching issues like that from a conservative perspective and without compromising principles. And it's that kind of approach, I think, that will be our greatest weapon in terms of winning, as you said, back those suburban females in particular.
And we have a lot of young conservatives on on this show who say the very same thing. Say, if Republicans really don't put together some climate change or clean energy type of perspective, they're just conceding that argument to the left in the Green New Deal. I mean, Republicans really don't have a rebuttal at this point, and it is an important position for many young people as well, as you were saying. And I think perhaps maybe infrastructure is another thing that we might be able to see with a Joe Biden administration or a Senate as well. So maybe there are some things that could come for Republicans out of this, but we still have to.
And I think,
Go ahead.
sorry to interrupt, but I think to your point, we need that beachhead, right? I mean, if there is going to be energy policy, we want to ensure that it's done in a way that leverages markets, that doesn't increase the size of government, that doesn't start piling on regulation. Mitch McConnell and the Senate Republicans are our safeguard to ensure that if they are going to move, the Democrats, the left, are going to move towards energy policy that is too close to the Green New Deal, then it's Mitch McConnell and Senate Republicans that are going to right size that policy and ensure it's something that conservatives can live with.
No, and Mitch McConnell has said it himself. He's the grim reaper for those ultra progressive type of policies. So I think that a lot of Republicans are happy to have him in that position right now. But Mark Pischea, I really appreciate you coming on the program tonight, breaking down why this is so important for the average voter. Thank you.